How do product managers discover what the real problem is?
So, if you think about it, product consists of 6 elements. It's the technology, the workflow. The sweet spot is very simple: solve a real problem at a real scale, creating an impact that matters. A simple street vendor and a corporate employee uses the same simple mechanism to process their payment. Learn about today from your frontline workforce. Learn about tomorrow from your strategic leaders and follow the dollar.
Now, how do you decide what not to build? Good morning, good evening. Welcome to a brand new episode of Future Forward, a podcast series by Techcanvass on artificial intelligence, business analysis, and product management. So, before I begin the episode for today, let me tell you a short story about Coca-Cola and Pepsi. In the early 1980s, Coca-Cola was under tremendous pressure from PepsiCo. They were doing a lot of things right, because of which they were gaining a lot of market share. And one of the things which PepsiCo was doing was a campaign called Blind Taste Test, in which they were giving unlabeled colas to people and asking them to tell which one is tasting better. And many of the people were liking the sweeter tasting cola. And that was obviously from PepsiCo. And that was worrying Coca-Cola a lot. So Coca-Cola had to do something about it. So what they did, they reformulated the drink and created a new drink, which was sweeter in taste, competing the PepsiCo Cola. But what happened after that is truly remarkable. When Coca-Cola launched this new product, people simply rejected it. They actually led protests and wrote several emails to Coca-Cola headquarters asking them to take it back and bring back the original cola. And it grew so much that Coca-Cola had to relent. So they actually took out the newer product and launched the Coca-Cola Classic. Now, what it really tells us is that it's not about building a product, is not about a new formulation, a new tech platform, or an invention. It is about building a product that matters. And matters to whom? The customers and the stakeholders. And this is what exactly we're going to discuss in this episode. Okay, so let me introduce today's guest, Payal Shah. She is a senior product manager with over 15 years of experience leading SaaS products across hedge funds, investment banking, and Fintech. Hi, Payal. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Abhishek.
So let me start by trying to understand what is your background and how did you get into the current role which you are doing?
So, as you mentioned, my background is revolving around hedge funds, fintechs, and investment banking. So, I started my career with a company called Morgan Stanley. So into product, yes, it was an internal mobility that the opportunity Morgan Stanley provided. And since then, there is no looking back. So I've tried to upscale myself every 2 years. And in today's podcast, I would love to share my insights on how to create products that genuinely matter.
Right. So let's start with the first question. So let's say if you have to answer the question in 60 seconds saying, what do product managers do, which is different from project managers or designers or even program managers?
So, well, if I have to answer, what is a product manager responsible for? It's owning the strategic success of a particular product. Okay. As a product manager, you have to own the question, why the heck are we even building this? I mean, think about it. Your entire team is good at what they do. Your designers are good at creating workflows. Your engineers are good at creating journeys with technology. Your project managers would be like, okay, build whatever you want to build. Just please don't keep changing my timelines.
Correct.
Your product owners would be living in their own backlog like it's their own sweet Netflix clue. So, in all this, it's a product manager who needs to stop the meeting and ask, guys, what problem are we solving? Why are we even building this? Okay. Everyone else is playing their part of the orchestra, but it's the product manager who is responsible for making sure that the music sounds good and that there is someone who is willing to buy the ticket.
Correct. Right. So our topic today is building products that matter. Okay. So let's start from the scratch. So the first question would be, what is a product in this context? How do you define a product?
Okay, so Abhishek, when we talk about a product in this podcast, we are not talking about an app or a screen or a feature. We are talking about a whole experience wrapped around it. Okay, so if you think about it, product consists of six elements, fundamental elements. Okay, it's the technology, the workflow, the decisions, the value proposition, the business model around it, and the emotional experience that a user walks away with. Now, if you ask me in a very layman term to explain this concept, I would say a product is a promise. A promise that says if you use this, your life will get meaningful in a specific way. Now, that promise is why we built. The workflow, the technology, the features, they are all building mechanisms. Okay. To summarize, in this podcast, when I talk about product, I will talk about the end to end product experience, the value, the business proposition around it, and the impact that it creates.
Right. So the next question was actually that if you build a product that matters, okay, what does it mean? So when you say that matters, so you mentioned about value, the other aspects. So can you give some example as to what exactly that matters concerns with?
Okay, so genuinely, it's very simple. For a product to matter, it needs to solve a real human problem at a real scale. Okay. Now think about it. If a product only solves for a user problem but cannot sustain itself, it won't last. On the other hand, if a product only makes money but is not giving any meaningful impact, slowly your users will walk away. Correct? So, sweet spot is very simple. Solve a real problem at a real scale, creating an impact that matters. To summarize, a product will matter when users depend on it and when business grows because of it.
Okay, so can you share a real life situation or a product where that product actually delivered that?
For a product to have delivered value, you need to measure it into three buckets. Okay, buckets are need, want, and desire. Now, let me help you understand this through an example. Okay, back in 2016, early digitization eras, I still remember the first time I used UPI, your Unified Payments Interface. We all are used to it by now. I was genuinely shocked when I first time used it. I mean, think about it. I just scanned a QR code, I entered a PIN, and before my brain could process it, okay, is it done? The payment was done. So simple. I mean, no card, no account number, no IFSC, no OTP marathons. It was like magic back in 2016. And that's when it hit me that in those tiny milliseconds, an insane amount of complex stuff just happened in the background. If I had to explain it at a 36,000 feet level, think about it, okay? Two banks spoke to each other. Multiple systems validated the authenticity of the transaction. They checked funds, they authorized the transaction, they confirmed the settlement, and they sent the response back. All this securely, reliably, and at a scale.
Correct.
I mean, wow. Coming back as a product manager, if I have to rate this in the three buckets that I earlier spoke about, UPI created a need to make payments instant and digital. It created a want to make payment effortless. And over long run, it created a desire that if we talk about payments, it has to be as simple as UPI.
Correct.
Today, UPI processes around 18 billion transactions a month. But that's not what I'm in awe about. The users don't feel the complexity that is going beyond each single transaction that is happening in a millisecond for you.
Correct.
Now, that's when you know that you have created value. Not because it's a scaling mechanism, but because a simple street vendor and a corporate employee uses the same simple mechanism to process their payments.
Correct. That's truly a product that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so a question for you before we get into the next section. A product manager is said to be the CEO of a product. Is that true or false? We'll come back to the question later in the episode. Okay, so then the next question is, how do product managers discover what the real problem is? Connecting to your previous answer.
Well, I'll give you my mantra of how I discover a real problem. Look for three things, okay? Learn about today from your frontline workforce. Learn about tomorrow from your strategic leaders and follow the dollar. Okay. Now, in my fintech and banking experience, I have learned more from my branch managers, risk makers, policy creators, my customer support teams than any fancy dashboards. Okay. Because they are the ones who are close to the real raw problem. Okay. Trust me when I say this, your best insights will actually come from two sets of users. Either the users are super frustrated or the users that are super creative. Okay. Your average user will never give you those kind of insights.
Correct.
So take my advice whenever you are dealing with such users, always ask one magic question. Why? Why? Whatever you are saying, what's the why behind it? The moment you understand the why, it is very easy for you to understand and get to the root of the real problem. A real problem lies where a user is spending its money, emotional energy, or knowledge just to get through the day. And that's where you need to come in and solve that problem.
Correct. So you talked about what do the users want, the actual users. But there's always a side, two other sides to it. One is what does the business want and what is technically feasible.
Correct.
Okay. So now if you look at all these three things, okay, how do you make a balance in these three factors or these three things rather?
A very simple answer I'll give to your question here. PMs balance by anchoring on just one thing, value creation. Okay. You need to ask, emphasize, analyze, and debate around just one question. What value is the product creating? Okay. PMs basically every single day deal with multiple stakeholders, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, auditors, and whatnot, right? You are always running a three-way negotiation street, correct? Now, there are two stakeholders which are very important in the journey of your product lifecycle. One is your stakeholders. These can be your internal stakeholders or your external stakeholders like your clients, correct? And the second is your tech team, your solution architect, your product engineer, your QAs, and whatnot, correct? Now, it is you as a product manager who needs to understand the business problem. And now it is up to you and your expertise to break down that business problem into the problem statement, the current scenario, the expected scenario, and a acceptance criteria. Okay. Now, when you do this, you can now translate this into a functional requirement that is easily understood by your technical teams. Post which you can, with the help of your technical teams, carve out a MLP, or my version of it, a MVP, right? So basically an MVP refers to a minimum viable product, or a MLP refers to a minimum lovable product, something that I've invented myself. So now, using tools like prototyping, Figma, Miro, right? You just carve out this minimum lovable product, so that then using this prototyping tools, you can very easily help your business teams visualize the solution. Okay. When you do this, trust me, in my experience, it has solved most misunderstandings that can happen between a business and an engineering team. Think about it. Business team said, I want to build a bridge. Engineering team said, okay, and you build this. Will it work? No.
It has actually happened here.
So that's where a product manager's job becomes the most critical one, to understand the requirements so that the bridge gets built like this. At the end of the day, it's very simple. Balance comes from clarity. Never hesitate to ask why this, why now, what is the value. Once you have answer to these three fundamental questions, clarity will follow.
Can you think of an instance where some insights from the users, okay, actually change the direction of a product? So initially it was going in a particular direction, but with the user insights, the reports, analysis, it actually changed the direction of the product.
Let me share a moment that genuinely humbled our entire team. Okay. It was back in my early product years. We were building a credit decisioning module for one of our fintech clients. Now, our hypothesis was rock solid. It was a credit decisioning module. It had to be fast, faster approvals, which would mean eventually happy customers, which would eventually turn on the conversion rates for the client. Okay. Now we build our whole agile roadmap surrounding this hypothesis, focusing heavily on automation. The teams were geared up, the engineering pods were aligned. But then, as a product manager, something clicked me. And I said, okay, we understood the requirement from the client. But what about the end user? Okay. We took a pause and we actually did a market survey on a tier 3 and a tier 4 city.
Okay.
Okay. And the results hit me like a brick. So while we were focusing on building fast, the customer was craving for confidence and trust.
Okay.
Some of the insights that came forward from this analysis were, why so fast? Is it something fishy? Where is my data going? Is this a scam? Are you sure? I mean, these were the kind of questions that came around those surveys. And now we changed our whole strategy around it. Rather than focusing for fast, we build screens for transparency. We build screens to help the user understand the credit journey. We build chatbots for first time users to gain confidence on the product. We showed the whole timeline of how a particular activity is taking place in the background. Now you will ask me, okay, what happened? What happened was the conversion rate that went up from building trust was far more than what we anticipated would go up from building it fast. So, when your product is not trusted, okay, speed will become a liability.
Correct.
But the moment you gain that trust, speed will become a bonus.
True.
So, focus on creating value, focus on making your product reliable, and speed will follow eventually.
Correct. So one related question. So earlier you talked about what to build, asking questions and all the talking to stakeholders. But there are always situations where there's a lot of pressure of doing this, doing that. Now, how do you decide what not to build? Because that is something which I am sure is also an important part of your role.
Definitely, every product manager will relate to this. You're absolutely right. A PM gets flooded with requests. A product manager's job is not to ship more features because ultimately it will make your product a feature factory.
Correct.
Okay. A product manager's job is to ship what matters. Now, here's a strategy slash approach that I myself use. Okay. I anchor on value and not volume. Just because someone is shouting the loudest doesn't mean it's actually a problem that is worth solving. Look for three theses. First, does this product that I'm building give me a market edge? Does this product that I'm building solve a real user problem? Or does this product give me some business value? And the solution that I follow is if it does not tick any two boxes out of this three, it goes in the parking lot for me. I'll give you an example of when I decided not to build something or say a no. So, as product, we were once pushed by our business development teams to create a client reporting engine.
Okay.
Okay. Why? Because one of our large clients was asking for it. Now, if we analyze this, it was a super complex problem to solve. Yes, on the face of it, at a 36,000 feet, it was creating value. Okay. But we have to dig deeper. So we dig deep. Only one customer has ever asked for this module. Okay. It was a 10 plus weeks of engineering effort, just taking a rough guesstimate. And if you look at our entire company vision, it was not solving one of the core workflow values. Now, I gave you the problem statements, but from product, what is expected is okay, I heard you. Give me something that I can give back to the client. It's an emergency. Come on, the client is asking. And we were like, okay, no, not a problem. Give us some time. Now, what we did was we built a simple CSV exportable live data API, which took us around 1 week of developmental effort. When we presented this, the client was happy, their requirements were met. Now, in the long run, what happened? When we analyzed, in 3 years, zero other client has ever asked us for this client reporting module. Okay. We saved on our resources and prioritized for things that actually added value to the overall core offering. And that's when you know that just by saying a simple no, you added value.
That's an excellent example. So now, just extending that. So you mentioned you looked at the how many people are actually looking for it. Okay, but what could be other metrics which you check or you measure to say, okay, this value, this product was able to deliver the value or not?
It's a very simple answer to a very complex question that you have asked. I would say track outcomes and not outputs. Now, let me help you understand what is the difference. Okay. Tie an output to the number of features that you are shipping every sprint versus tie an outcome to the value that you are creating for the business. Okay. Examples of outcomes can be reduction in your support tickets, digitization of a manual workflow, higher conversion rates. In the end, if these outcomes don't move, you've just created something which is nice to have. It's funny, but it's true. If no one notices the feature that you created or the output that you created, it genuinely doesn't matter. So, if I had to summarize this, at the end of the day, engage with your end users because clarity only comes when you understand the deep down of the problem statement. Don't just end a product life cycle when you ship a product because that's where most product managers say, hey, my job is done. But genuinely, the maintenance phase and the post implementation phase is equally important for a product manager to know that your outcome has actually delivered value.
Correct. Okay, so before we move to the next question, one more question for you. So, as a product manager, how do you prioritize? Are you looking at UX features, maybe a new feature, or something else? How do you prioritize? So, I'll give you the answer. I'll ask with the guest to give you the answer to this question. Okay, so now it's time for looking at the quiz questions.
Okay.
First question was, a product manager is essentially the CEO of the product. True or false, and why?
Well, a tricky question if my CEO is watching this. But I would say 100% false. A product manager is not the CEO of the product. And honestly, thinking that way creates more problems than giving you clarity. I mean, you yourself are a CEO. Think about it. You have a authority to take decisions, which as a product manager, they will not have.
Yeah.
A CEO does hiring, firing, decision making, execution, strategy. A product manager influences those decisions, but doesn't make those decisions. So, a better way to think about it is a product manager is an orchestrator of a product. You lead, you influence, you guide, but you don't decide. A better way to think about it is a product manager leads through influence, but not authority.
Correct. Well said. Actually, this is something which has been said on social media and various channels saying product manager is the CEO, which now you have the clarity. Next question was, how do you prioritize a product or a product launch? Okay. Is it UX? Is it performance or something else?
Well, my thesis is pretty simple in this. You can, from any industry, relate to this, okay? If your foundation is shaky, then your features are just decorative materials, okay? So let's look at it. Performance and UX comes each and every time before features. Now, let's help with an example for our audience to understand this. I'll take a very generic example so that everyone can relate. Look at Steve Jobs, okay? Now, and I mean, when you hear this, my thesis that I just explained will become more clear to you. Steve Jobs was obsessed with one core belief: technology should feel obvious, even if underneath it's incredibly complex. And that is why Apple consistently prioritized on performance and UX. Things had to be fast, things had to be reliable, and things had to work at a scale.
Correct.
UX or user experience, if you call it, the ideology was pretty crisp. The product had to feel intuitive within minutes. And only then features were cherry picked and topped. Now, there are multiple Instagram and LinkedIn posts that Steve Jobs is famous for cutting down on features. Well, yes, he is an orchestrator of cutting down on features when it doesn't solve a simple user experience. Not because Apple couldn't build them, but because every extra effort that you add increases the cognitive load on the system. So, while competitors, again not getting into nitty-gritties, raced for adding extra features, extra apps, extra buttons, the ideology of Apple was pretty simple. They built on one thing, and that is confidence and trust. And over a time, what helped Apple gain that competitive edge was loyalty.
Correct.
So, if you look at it from a pyramid structure, your performance and your UX form a foundation to your base. And only then the features which form part of the upper pyramid, it strengthens your foundation.
Right. So well said. So now it's time for rapid fire round. Okay. So first question. One PM tool you can't live without.
Tools will come and go. One thing that I cannot live without is market insights. And with that tied up is my user interviews, because tools are replaceable, but user experience and human touch is not.
Yeah, well said. One feature in one of your products which you are proudest of.
By far now, and I would not call it a feature, an idea that shaped into a full fledged module in itself was for approved project finance digitization. Basically, how you manage your under construction properties in India.
Okay.
So, we digitized the whole module to work around it, and that's the feature that I'm proudest of.
Okay, one mistake, one product manager mistake everyone should avoid.
Don't succumb to chaos, because it's very easy to fall into the prey of people shouting the loudest, okay, prioritize this, I need this, come on, I cannot wait. You will lose the customer. Always take a step back and see the value add.
Right. So just one last question. Any advice for people who want to become a product manager or who are into product management very early on? So with your experience, what any advice you want to give them?
One advice that I myself followed is work on one simple mantra: follow the dollar. Now, this dollar can be cost savings by optimizing tasks so that you can do more within the same workforce. It can be launching a whole new market segment that is again creating a dollar impact for your users and for your business. But wherever you go, whatever stream you touch, it should have some dollar impact that is generated for the business, because only then your strategic leadership will align to your product.
Correct. So thank you so much for your time and thank you for coming on a Sunday. I hope this was an insightful discussion on building products that matter. Thank you so much for watching this episode. See you in the next one.